The Mega KVK that we talked about last video is probably also the KVK with the fastest Diplo that I've ever seen. Yes, allies have already been determined, and we talked about it last night in the podcast. So here is that clip, just in case you guys didn't get to watch it for you video viewers. We have Siege of Orleans. You could see the matchup here. 5 Imperium Kingdoms, 1960, 2377, the matchup that everyone wanted to see. But we also have really strong and great KDs in 1093, 1365, 1606. And then, of course, really strong ACs, 2975, 2941, 1814, 1473. So I'll throw it to you, Redline. What do you think of this matchup?
That's a lot of numbers, bro. That's a lot of numbers. Honestly, first off, thank you, Lilith, for not messing this up. I think every Imperium Kingdom that registered is on the map, right? Am I missing anybody? Is there anybody missing? Or
I think that
they're all accounted for. I
think they're all accounted for, yeah.
I'm very glad that this matchup happened. I feel like it will be the KVK of the year. I think me and you were trying to come into this podcast like understanding what the potential matchups would be, but it's not done quickly. So that whole part about scenarios kind of like went out the door. But I think this will be a bloodbath, bro. There's so many capable kingdoms involved in this. It's just I have no idea which way it will go.
In case you guys are wondering what the matchup is, let me pull it up on screen here. We have the map. Of course, we have Red Lena making an appearance in the 1960 side of things. But it is a top versus bottom matchup. It is 1093, 1473, 1814, 2941, and 1960 versus 1365, 1606, 2975, and 2377. Honestly, when I look at this matchup, this was probably the best way it could have went. We have 1093, 1365, two classic rivals fighting against each other, potentially in the first zone if they decide to go into that zone 5. 1960 versus 2377, though, the matchup that everyone has been waiting for, the matchup that everyone has been talking about, we get to match up throughout the KVK, starting from that zone 4 or that pass 4 zone 5 all the way to zone 6 and potentially Orleans. So, man, Redline, what do you think of this matchup when you look at the map and kind of how fast the Diplo went?
Dude, first, the Diplo, that's probably one of the fastest Diplos I've encountered in a very long time. Like, it was just mind-blowing how fast it went. I think with a span of a couple hours. No, Chad, am I smoking here? But I feel like that's what really happened. Is that right?
I heard whispers of it like 40 minutes after reset. I think one thing that really helped is that all these Imperium Kingdoms knew that they were queuing up with each other. This was a joint effort between everyone. 1960, 1093, 1365, 27, 1606. All these KDs knew that they wanted to be in a map together.
To your first question about 77 and 60, and bro, even on the other side of the map, 93 and 65, we both know they're both going to go in it hard. Like, they're 77 and GT are going to meet in the first zone. 93 and 65 are going to go into the first zone. Like, because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, the way the map is, everybody gets to go in Kingsland, right? Technically, everybody be getting Kingsland?
Well, that is the interesting part, because in Zone 6, it's similar to Strife of the 8 Redline, where you need to get a pass in Zone 6, and your Zone 6s can be contested. So, since it is a top versus bottom map, yeah, so this is a Siege of Orleans map. We would be in this right zone in Bourbon. 2377 would be in this bottom right corner in Avern. So we'd be fighting in Nevers in this zone here. We'd also be fighting in Ile-de-France, which is going to be this zone 6 here. So essentially what we're fighting for in Nevers is these extra 2 passes with 2377. And that's what this zone 5 fight is going to accomplish. Whoever wins this Zone 5 fight will have extra passes going into this Ile-de-France. And essentially what's happening here is we need to secure this pass here to get into Kingsland at all. So this is going to be our do or die fight. This is not going to be a heroic anthem type of KVK, a King of the Nile type of KVK, where you just, sit down on your forts and twiddle your thumbs in Zone 7, because this I'm pretty sure this zone it lasts like a week.
Bro, and you have to remember, Ploto, too. This is a KVK with the auxiliary skills, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So swarming's like OP here. So like I feel like whoever's a garrison in any of these kingdoms is like, fuck, that's gonna be rough.
This is gonna be. I'm not envious of any of the garrisons, bro.
This is gonna be rough. Man, I think you made a really good point. Like that zone here, that zone. You said zone 6, right? It's the most heavily contested to get into Orleans. I think that's the Kingsland. Technically, that would be the most insane one. And looking at the map too, right? So it's top versus bottom. Obviously, 77 and 60 are gonna go at it with each other, and then 65 and 93 are gonna go hard on each other. But then the middle camps, they'll see fighting what, zone 6, 5? No, 6.
They will see fighting in zone 6, yes. So the middle camps is really interesting. They don't have any. So you could see if I bring up the map again, the middle camps is 1606, 2975, and 1473, 1814, 2941. They are going to be fresh for zone 6s. What that means is, especially as the middle camp, they have Berry and Anjou in this bottom side. Our allies will have Normandy and Champagne for free. That means that they have the choice to decide which side they support. If they support the 1093 versus 1365 side, or if they will support the 960 versus 2377 side. So we'll actually have to rely on our AEC allies, for example. If there's, I don't know, if 1093 is in their downtime, if 960 is losing the field somehow, in some way, some form, if 1606 is going into this right side, we will have to rely on our AC allies to kind of respond and help out in either of these zone 5s or zone 6s. So it is such an interesting map because these two sides, the two side KDs, are going to be duking it back and forth in this zone 5. And then when it comes to zone 6, it'll be a continuation, but there will be some outside support from these middle camps.
Dude, what interests me too, like for example, once we get into zone 6, right? We'll be fighting 77 the entire time, right? But then 606 and 75 will be in there too, right?
Yeah.
Will they be able to beat us? And then our allies on top, which I have no idea. Like I haven't really done my research on 73, 14, or 41. Like Ploto, are they solid?
I do not know too much about them either. Chat, this is where we'll look to you guys. Do you guys know anything about 1473, 1814, 2941? I'm not too familiar with them.
I'm just curious. We would love to, just understand, what we got going on. Because 65, I know they definitely changed over time, but I still think they're a solid Imperium, and 77 speaks for itself. And then 606 with Aquino leading that charge, and 75 too. Is it 75 the Vietnamese kingdom?
Yeah, it's the Vietnamese kingdom that has an Arvix account. Pha said that he's good friends with the people there, so it'll be interesting, man. 2975 is the kingdom. I have some history with the kingdom because when we fought them against 2268, they swarmed my city as I was maxing Heraclius to garrison it.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that. So they're a pretty tough team to fight against.
Yeah, they're pretty strong. At least in the past, I heard some people migrated out, but they should still be pretty serviceable.
Oh damn, we gotta definitely check them out too, Ploto, later in the plot if we have a chance to, because that would be pretty cool to get a better understanding. I am sure somebody has some statistics out there, but to kind of like break it down for both sides.
We actually do have some stats. Here are the stats. Let me go ahead. Hey, we came ready a little bit.
Oh my god.
So this is by Hero Scrolls. If you guys are interested, Hero Scrolls, the Duke
out the Hero Scrolls
2906 is the homie. Plugged pretty much every single content creator with the same graphic. All right, so we have 1093 in Brittany, which is our ally in the top left. They have 25.7 billion top 300, 41.3 billion top 600.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they're like a two alliance KD, right? They have 93T, 93X. Pretty much the only Imperium top seeded KD that has two alliances left in the game, I think. Especially since 1365 have downsized. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But then if you look, sorry, real quick, if you saw 1365, they look at their power and they look at their troop power, bro. That's insane.
Yeah.
Baba's in 365, right?
Yeah, Baba and like 3 of his ults are in 365. So it's pretty insane how much shoot power they have over there. And iHeart with the dono, greatly appreciated. Looking forward to playing the second KVK with you. But yeah, we have 1093. That was the power. The KP 3.2 trillion for the top 300, 3.5 trillion for the top 600. Deads 11.4 billion for the top 300, and top 600 14.6 billion. Then we could go ahead and look at 1365, which is going to be the direct opponents. 31.6 billion power, billion power in top 300, 49.1 billion power in top 600. So a lot of people within the top 600 for those two KDs. I'm going to be curious for both of them, how many of that is actually fighting accounts and how many of that is people that retired or people that don't play the game or whatnot, with the downsizing. Because I'm pretty sure this is the first KVK since 1365 went through their downsizing after 2377 from 2 alliances down to 1 alliance.
Oh, that's a good point. Oh my god, I'm really interested to see how they perform this KVK. People are in the chat saying like, "Hey, some of this things isn't fair, like whatever." But like, why was Diplo done so fast? Like, was there any pushback in Diplo, or everyone thought it was fair in terms of leadership? Because obviously leadership knows best, right? Was anything forced, or like this made the most sense?
I was so ready for this podcast to be the potential matchups. We could talk about left versus right, top versus bottom, but realistically for this KVK, especially in Siege of Orleans, I think the top versus bottom makes so much sense because it allows for the zone 6s to be much more impactful. If it was just left versus right, then both sides would just be sitting twiddling their thumbs for a week in zone 6. This will allow the 2377-1960 matchup, which is what was expected going into this KVK. And then we will also have the 1093-1365 historical matchup. And then we will also have a crazy zone 6 fight where that gets amplified with the middle camps, depending on who and which side they want to support.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, whatever happened in Diplo, like, obviously was done so. I think someone said 15 minutes. I think Akita said it took 15 minutes to establish this. So I guess it made sense and everybody thought this was a fair matchup. You know what I'm saying? So like whatever it was, I mean, it just made sense.
And I think it does make sense where 1606 2975, by the way. Let's go ahead and go back to the rankings that we were going through.
Yeah.
All right, we got 1606 2975, top 300, 31.2 billion power, top 600, 42.4 billion power. KP 3.3 trillion for both, essentially. And then we have Dead's 11.2 billion and 13.2 billion. So that is the power of 1606 2975. Let us go ahead and look at our direct counterparts, our opponents in 2377 at 31.7 billion top 200 power, 40.6 billion top 600. You can see KP 3.1 3.1 trillion KP. 31 would be crazy. For both top 300 and top 600.
That's like 10 years from now, bro.
And then Dead's 10.4 billion for top 300 and 11.4 billion for top 600. Let us talk about ourselves in 1960. Top 300, 29.5 billion power. Top 600, 40.2 billion power. Kills, you could see that we're only a one lines kingdom, so it's pretty much exactly the same at 4 trillion for top 300 and 600. And then deads, 13.3 billion deads versus 15 billion deads for top 600. If you guys are wondering what this means, top 600 is essentially the extra 300 accounts are farm accounts. That's why you can see the deads increase. KP usually not increasing for most of these. Final camp here, we got our allies, the 3 A seeds, 2941, 1473, 1814. Top 300, 31 billion power. Top 600, 43.1 billion power. And then KP, 2.4 trillion KP for top 300, 2.5 trillion KP for top 600. And Dead's 9.1 billion versus 11.5 billion for top 600. So if you look at the matchups, all things considered,
I think they did a good job at figuring it out. I feel like I think either way, there's always gonna be people saying one thing or the other in terms of the matchups. But like honestly, I feel like they did the best they could. They did the best that it became out. It came out. This is the best scenario based on how the map was laid out. I think.
yeah, I agree. And it should equate to some crazy, crazy fights, some crazy, crazy moments because I mean, last KVK we had some good moments against 2049, but the map was just, pretty lackluster. This map, Redline, we're going to be fighting for a couple weeks here. So if all things go according to plan, if things stalemate the way that people predict they will stalemate, then this Siege of Orleans right here is going to be insane. Nevers, there's going to be forts everywhere versus 960 and 2377 and 1093 versus 1365. Same thing with Ile-de-France and Touraine, which is going to be the zone 6s, where there's just going to be a fight. There's going to be a fight to try to take away the opponent's pass 6, because essentially if you take a pass 6 from your opponents, you're going to win the KVK. There's no way you could be down. There's only 4 passes. Actually, that's a good point, Redline. There's 4 passes in this KVK. There's 6 camps. So how do you get all 3 camps into this KVK? You're gonna have to pass share, or you could take one of your opponent's camps and just shut it down for good.